Bumblebee was directed by Travis Knight, the man who helmed the excellent Kubo and the Two Strings, and stars Hailee Steinfeld and takes place in the 1980s, and follows the Autobot Bumblebee as he stumbles across this young girl's house, finds his voice, and fights back against some Decepticons who have invaded Earth, and this young girl learns things about herself, and tries to reconnect with someone for the first time since losing her father. Now, I've talked about all the Transformers movies on my channel before. The original animated film I like, as well as Michael Bay's first film. It's not too bad. So since this film takes place in the 80s, has a new director, has a new main star, it's able to really condense a lot of what the Transformers movies have overblown. And this film is easily the best that I've seen in the Transformers franchise since the first one. That's not really saying all that much though, considering the quality of the ones that came after that first one, but this is leaps and bounds above those, and it's a good course correction in that it understands what the Transformers fans want to see. There's a feel to that original Transformers cartoon that Michael Bay's films just didn't understand. And Bumblebee, with Travis Knight's direction, does. This heartwarming sense to it. It's not just nostalgia. There's a sense of joy that this film has that Bay's films just didn't have. There was a cynicism to those movies, a very Hollywood, glossy, like overly sexualized appeal to it that was just gross. There's no pot jokes in this film with parents that are getting high at college. There's no overly sexualized shots of young women. The color grading is actually correct. It's not highly saturated. There's barely any Dutch angles. The action is framed in wides, and you can actually tell what's going on. It's comprehensible. There's no dogs fucking either, which is a major plus. And there's no really annoying characters that grate on your nerves so much because they can't stop screaming. There's a lot of benefits to having a new director on board for this movie because it's just a new, fresh vision, and it's something that I think was missing from a lot of the Transformers films in the past. The screenplay comes from Christina Hodson, who in the past is credited as the writer for Shut-In and Unforgettable. So I was a little concerned going in because I really did not like either of those films. But this is definitely her best work. Apparently, there was a rewrite on the film by Kelly Fremon Craig, who is uncredited. She wrote and directed Edge of 17, also with Steinfeld, which I thought was an excellent film. So perhaps that rewrite helped, but she did not receive credit for that, and so maybe they didn't go with her rewrite. I don't know. I'm just saying that this screenplay is better than what Christina Hodson had done before with Shut-In and Unforgettable. Those were two films that were just like the most throwaway, honestly terrible movies, and so it's nice to see that she's improved a bit. But there are some aspects of this screenplay that bug me, and some directions the film takes that I couldn't help but notice was so much like other films. The biggest and most obvious comparison is E.T. It is extremely similar to E.T., so much so that it almost feels like the screenplay looked at Melissa Matheson's original work with E.T. and beat for beat recreated it. There's the obvious thing of this entity that's come from another planet, and a young person discovers it, has a friend, feels good about that. Her father has passed away. In E.T., Elliot's father was gone. She hides Bumblebee away from her parents and tries to keep him a secret, just like Elliot and E.T. Eventually, there's a sequence where Bumblebee gets out and trashes the house, just like in E.T. And of course, there's a military subplot, just like in all the Transformers movies, but in this one, it's people who are after Bumblebee because they feel that he's a threat and they have to try to get him out of there. And for most of E.T., you think that these people who are after E.T. are evil. So I couldn't help but notice those direct comparisons. They seemed very blatant. There's a few sequences also with missing information. There's a scene where the mom is taking the dog to the vet in Bumblebee, but she doesn't realize it's Bumblebee. So Hailee Steinfeld is trying to get there as quick as she can on her moped, and she catches up to her mom very quickly and is like, "Mom, scoot over, I'll drive." And she's like, "Oh, okay. And then they drive off. But I'm like, what happened to the moped? Did you just leave it on the street? In all honesty, this is a really fun movie. The first half, I actually kind of loved. I think the setup is really, really good, and I thought Hailee Steinfeld was also terrific in the movie. This is maybe my favorite performance from her. I think she did a great job. I like the family dynamic that's set up. I like her past. She used to be a diver, but she doesn't feel comfortable with that anymore because it was something her father encouraged. Now that he's not around, it makes her feel depressed, and I loved all the stuff with Bumblebee too. The action sequences were all really well done. There's some fight scenes that I thought were great. It definitely understands the feel of what Transformers is supposed to be. This is actually an enjoyable movie that you can have a good time watching and not feel bad about, because it's just plain fun. There are some sequences with John Cena and his military subplot that felt extremely hammy, but I kind of think they're supposed to be. If you've ever actually seen the Transformers show, it's corny as hell. It's very cheesy. But where Bay's Transformers films and their military just seemed cringeworthy and really bad and fake and stupid, here it seems like they're actually going for the hamminess on purpose, as sort of like a tongue-in-cheek appeal. So I would say my biggest issue with the movie is the comparisons to E.T. Like, if you're going to have a movie about an entity from another planet and a young kid that's connecting with it, you could at least try to have the basic subplots and scenes be in a different order. But they really do feel as if the screenplay for E.T. was used as a template almost to just copy and paste and then change things around, which was disappointing for me. Some people may not even notice that. Some people may not even care. I think most Transformers fans are just going to be happy that there's an actual good Transformers movie out that respects the legacy. And I am happy with this movie, and I can recommend that you'd see it, but I couldn't not notice those comparisons. I'm going to give Bumblebee a B. I think this movie was destined to have that grade. It's the perfect grade for this film. I would recommend you see it. I think Transformers fans can breathe a nice sigh of relief. It's nice to see a fun, enjoyable Transformers movie that isn't a bunch of sparklers and creepy, pervy shots of young girls and the Romeo and Juliet law. Oh my God, what were they thinking? Jesus Christ. Anyway, guys, thank you so much, as always, for watching. If you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.